Freiheit, aber wie?
Freedom, but how?
Ich bin von Daniel angefragt worden.
I was asked by
ob ich Lust hätte,
Daniel
am
if I'm interested
6.
to preach on the 7th of June
Und
today. And
ja, eigentlich habe ich dann gerade mega
yeah,
schnell
I
viel
knew
aufs Herz
from the
gekriegt,
beginning,
und
like I
das
had a
mache ich.
peace on my heart, yeah, I
Dann
want to
haben wir
do
Gott
this.
gesagt, also gut, aber
And
ich
I
würde
said to
gerne noch
God,
das Thema
but yeah, I would
und
like to have a topic which I can preach
ja,
about.
und er hat mir dann mega aufs
And
Herz geredet
he
und
really spoke to my
ja,
heart
hat mich dann
and
auf die Freiheit hingewiesen,
brought
wo
me, yeah,
ich selber
showed me
mega
this
erleben
freedom that I could experience myself,
Und
and
dann
he showed me that
recht lang eigentlich so
Yeah,
gewusst,
that I
über
should
was
talk
ich
about this,
erzählen
and I
und was ich
knew
alles
what I want to
bringen.
talk about
Und
in
es
that
ist ein recht
topic,
grosses
but
Thema,
it's
darum
actually
habe ich mich
quite big
müssen
topic, so I had
auf gewisse
to
Sachen fokussieren und
look
habe
and
wie nie so
focus
wirklich
on
einen
some stuff
Einstieg oder
in
etwas
it,
gefunden.
and I never really
Und
found
wie der Silas schon gesagt hat, wir
a
sind gestern
start
am
into it, an
Vorbereitungstag
intro,
vor dem Wahl für
but
Adonia
we were
und
at the preparation
siehe
day
da,
for
da
Adonia,
geht
and
genau über das Thema
what
und
was the input
ein Teil
about
aus
they
dem
had
Input hat mich
there?
einfach mega angesprochen
Yeah, it was
und das
forgiveness,
möchte ich auch jetzt
and
als
it really
als,
talked to me,
Intro
so
brauchen. Und
I
zwar für die
I
die Bibel
really
da haben, ich erzähle eine Geschichte aus
felt to do
Samuel
that. Yeah,
24.
I'm gonna tell the story about in First Samuel
Ich tue es nicht genau vorlesen. Ich
4,
erzähle,
verse
wie es ist.
223. I'm not gonna read it from the
von
Bible,
einer
but I'm
meiner
gonna tell
Lieblingspersonen aus
you.
der Bibel,
Um,
David.
It's actually the story of one of my
David
favorite
ist
people in the Bible. It's
Zurückgekommen
about
von
David.
seinen Kämpfen für Saul.
David came back
David Goliath ist schon
from the
lang
fights that he had for
und die
Saul,
Leute haben ihm zugerufen,
and the people were
ja, das Lied
singing
Saul
to
hat
him.
zusammengeschlagen, der
Saul
David
beat the
10.000
people, but
Saul ist
David
hässig
beat
gewesen
the
und hat das Gefühl
10,000
gehabt,
people,
David
and
will
Saul
ihm
was
an den Kragen und
angry,
hat
and
böses
he
geplant
thought
gegen
that
ihn.
David wants to
Und,
kill him and is
Zwischendrin hat dann Saul gegen die Philister noch
planning to
kämpfen.
kill
Am
Saul.
Anfang
And between that,
Kapitel
Saul had
erwähnt
to
und hat sich
go
aber nachher wieder auf die
fight
Verfolgung
the
von
Philistines,
David gemacht mit
and
seinen 3000 stärksten Kriegern.
yeah, that's written there
Und,
in the beginning of the chapter.
David hat sich
So
versteckt in den
after that, he
Bergen
came back and he
und ist dann
went with his
Ort,
3,000
der
best
Saul kommt
fighters
wieder.
to him,
Sie hat
and
sich dann
David was in the
versteckt in einer
mountains, and he found
der
out
Höhle
that
sind
Saul is
sie
hunting him
Ding
down,
sie
and in these mountains he
weit
hid them
hinein
in a cave
Saul hat dann aufs
quite
stille
far in
Häuschen
it,
müssen.
and Saul
Und hat
needed to
sich
go to a
zufälligerweise
bath break, and
natürlich nicht die Höhle
in
ausgewählt.
that cave
Schon
where
bevor
David
das
was
passiert
waiting,
ist,
he
haben die Leute
chose
von
this
David
cave
gesagt,
to go
hey,
in there, and
heute kriegst du das
before that
Versprechen
even
von Gott, das er
happened,
gegeben hat, und
the
zwar dein Find in deine Hand.
the friends of
Du kannst machen
David
mit ihm,
that
was
were
du
with
willst.
him told him that today's the day
Und
where
wie
God
das
is going to
dann
give
eben
your
schon
enemy into
passiert,
your
Saul in
hands,
dieser
and
Höhle.
said
Und nachher
happening.
lesen wir, dass der David schleicht sich an ihn her und seine Leute haben ihn
Yeah, and
ermutigt,
in
hey,
that moment,
jetzt
his
hast du die
people
Chance,
of
mach ihn
David,
kalt,
they
töten.
encouraged him,
Und
kill
David
him,
hat
that's your
nachdem sagt er einfach nichts
opportunity.
und geht
And David doesn't say
Saul
anything
her.
after that. He just
Und
goes to
somit
Saul
hat er
and
irgendwie das Gefühl
he
gehabt,
cuts
und
off a
jetzt mal
piece of his
eigentlich
cloth.
beschließen, hey, jetzt geht's ihm Saul
And
an
I
den
think the people thought that
Ist dann aber nicht so
he's
passiert,
going there
sondern
and
es steht,
kills him, but
David stand auf und
actually
schnitt
it's
heimlich
written
einen
that
Zipfel von Sauls
David
Gewand ab.
goes and he
Hinterher schlug ihn aber doch
cut off a
das
piece of the
Gewissen,
cloth.
weil er das
But
getan
just right
hatte,
after that, he
gewagt
had a
hatte.
bad conscience
Und
because he
nur schon
risked
wusste,
that.
er hat die Chance,
And
ihn
just by that,
umzubringen.
like, he had the
Nimmt
chance
ihm
to
einen Teil
kill
vom
him.
Kleid ab.
He only
hat ein
cuts off a
schlechtes
piece of the
Gewissen gehabt.
cloth,
Habe ich mega
but he
interessant
still
gefunden,
had a
als ich gelesen
bad
habe.
conscience about it. So
Und
I thought it's
geht
very
auch wieder
interesting when I wrote
zurück in
that.
die Höhle und
read that.
wartet das Ganze eigentlich ab.
He goes back into the cave and he
Folgende haben
waits
gefragt,
what
was
is
soll
going to
das?
happen,
Wieso?
and his followers are
Jetzt hast du die
asking,
Chance
why?
gehabt, jetzt
Why
hast
would
du
you
verpasst.
do that?
Und
You
er
had the
sagt,
opportunity to kill him, and you
wer bin ich,
didn't.
dass ich ein
David
Gesalbter
responds,
vom Herrn
Who am
bin,
I to kill a person that is
nur weil ich die Chance dazu
chosen by God to be a king?
habe. Und
And
nachher geht er
after
raus
this, he
und
goes
bevor er
out,
den
and
Zipfel
before he
zeigt,
even shows the piece of
verbeugt
the
er sich vor
cloth,
dem König
he bows down in
und
front of
und
Saul,
fragt
of the
ihn,
king.
Wieso glaubst du diesen Leuten,
And
die
he's
sagen,
asking, why would
dass
you
ich dir etwas
believe the
anhaben will?
people that are claiming that I want to
Und,
kill you
Saul
and want to hurt
Ist
you?
ein bisschen verwirrt gewesen, wieso
Saul was a
da,
bit
was ist los?
confused,
Ist
why are
nicht
you
ganz
here,
rausgekommen.
or what is
Und
happening?
erst dann
And
zeigt David den Zipfel
just
von dem
after
Kleid
that,
und
he's
sagt,
showing the piece of
der
the
Herr hat
cloth,
dich in
and
meine
he's like,
Gewalt gegeben.
God gave me
Wer bin
in,
ich,
gave
dass
you
ich
in
etwas
my
anhabe?
hands, but who am I to
Darauf
harm
aber
you?
bricht der Saul in Tränen aus.
Right after
Rührt
that, Saul
und
starts
sagt,
crying,
also,
and
wie
he's
kannst du so nett
He's
sein zu
asking,
mir,
how
obwohl
can you
ich so
be
böse
so
gewesen bin zu
kind
dir.
if I was so
Ich habe dich
so
verfolgt.
rude and so mean to you?
Ohne dass ich
I
eigentlich einen Grund hatte, du hast mich gar
I
nicht
hunted you
geleitet.
down. I wanted
Und
to
du
kill you,
reagierst auf
and
das
you
gleich
react
nochmal
with
mit Liebe.
that, with love, with
Und machst
forgiveness,
mir nichts.
and you don't do
Darauf aber
anything to
verspricht
me.
dann David dem Saul, dass er seinen
Right after
Nachkommen
that,
mit Ahas, dass
David
schlecht in dem Sinne wird
promises to
stehen bleiben,
Saul
was
that
nicht üblich war damals,
that
sondern
he will
diese
protect
Herrschaft Änderung gegeben hat.
his gene and his
Sicher
family,
gemacht,
that
Yeah,
that they will survive, because that was not common these days, because they used to rot them out if a king lost his place, so that nobody could claim back the throne after that.
Und jetzt möchte ich zu dieser Geschichte
Here a
schnell
picture to that.
kurz eingehen
And I just want to quickly go
Davids Perspektive,
to David's
seine Gefühlslage.
feelings in that moment,
David hat wie
what he
gesagt,
thought. David
Saul
thought,
nichts angetan.
well, David didn't think. He didn't do
er ist sogar
anything
wieder
to
Musik
Saul.
machen
He
für ihn,
even went back to make
wo er wieder
music
hässig
after
war
fighting
und hat
and
sich wieder
calmed
untergeordnet
Saul,
hat.
and
Und dort
yeah,
wissen wir,
David
dass
really stepped
Saul
down
einen
again
Speer
and
auf
was
ihn wirft.
was like
Sagt, du
coming down, and Saul throws a spear at him and wants to kill him, and it doesn't work. You want to,
der David hat
you're
eigentlich
plotting against
jeden
me.
Grund gehabt, wenn man es
David
menschlich
had
anschaut, so
Had every reason, if you
Saul
look
in
at
dieser
from a
Höhle zu
perspective
töten.
from humans, to kill Saul in that cave.
wechselt der David die Perspektive.
But David changes the
sagt, hey,
perspective and
wer-
says,
wer bin
hey,
ich?
who am I
Der andere
to,
ohne Fehler und
I'm not
du
without
gesalbt
mistakes,
von Gott selber.
but
Der
God
Samuel
chose
hat
you
gesalbt
to
zum
be a
König
king,
und das
um,
unter Gottes Autorität.
Saul
Ich
by,
bin sicher nicht der, der
Samuel,
umbringt.
and I will
in dem
not be the
später
one
sagt
that
er auch
kills you. He
Der
also
Herr
says
wird
in that
Gerechtigkeit bringen über
in
die
that
Situation.
saying
Das ist
that
nicht sein Job.
Jesus, like the
Das ist
Lord,
auch so
will
ein Punkt,
bring
wo mir
justice
mega
in
wichtig
that
geworden ist, so,
situation,
hey,
and yeah,
wer
it
bin
really
ich, dass ich
is meaningful to me
jemand
as well.
anderem
Like, who am I
König
to
sind und jemand anderem,
to
wo Gott
harm
gemacht hat,
someone that
etwas
is a
darf
child of God, a
er mir.
prince of God,
Ich
or
glaub, das ist
at least created by God? Like,
ja,
who am
das ist
I?
etwas,
It's
wo wir
something
merken,
that
ja.
really
Dann im Saul
is
seine
in my mind,
Reaktion,
and I'm thinking about that.
Yeah.
So
ähm,
Saul's
ich möchte
reaction
auf
to
das
that,
eingehen, weil das ist
like,
eine
I want to
Konsequenz,
just quickly
zu dem,
go
was
into
passiert,
that.
wo ich
What's the
mit dem Thema
consequence
predige,
when somebody forgives? And I
Saul
think
bricht in
it's a
Tränen
beautiful
aus,
reaction that
rührt,
Saul
und
shows here.
erfährt,
It's a
hey,
beautiful
der ist
reaction.
gnädig gewesen mit mir. Der
Like,
hat
he cries
der hat
when
das
he
alles
realizes,
zurückgelassen und
hey, he
ist mir
he
entgegengekommen,
cares
hat
about
mir
me,
geredet zu mir.
and
Obwohl ich
yeah,
ihn
and
wollte umbringen.
although I wanted to kill you, you didn't harm me.
Was noch speziell ist, ist, im Alten Testament lesen wir
In the Old Testament, we
Auge
read
um Auge, Zahn um Zahn.
eye for eye
und
and tooth for tooth.
dazu kommen wir dann auch später nochmal. Aber der
I
David
will come
hat
back to that
eigentlich
later
das
also
als sein
again,
Wissen gehabt aus dem
but
Wort, aus
That
der-
was what
der
David
Schriften.
knew out of the
und er hat sich
scriptures,
eigentlich
out of
gegen
his
das
law,
entschieden.
and he decided to
Und
act
da
against
ist
this.
etwas, wo besser ist. Es ist nicht sein
He just
Recht,
felt that there is
obwohl
something
es
bigger than that.
gesetzlich
Like,
gesehen sein Recht
he
gewesen
had the
wäre.
right to
Der hat ihm
kill him
gesagt,
in
ja,
that moment if you go by law. But
ja,
David
jetzt
saw
möchte ich auch
over
ins Neue
that.
Testament eintauchen.
I want to go into the New
Und zwar
Testament now.
Matthäus 6, 12.
Let's go to Matthew 6, verse
Unser
12,
Vater,
out
wo
of
uns
the
Jesus
Our
etwas zu
Father
dem Thema
prayer,
sagt,
which Jesus
vergebe.
says something about forgiveness.
Und zwar
he
vergib uns
says
unsere
like,
Schuld,
and
wie auch
forgive
wir
us
vergeben
our
unseren
debts,
Schuldigen.
as we also have
Und
forgiven our debtors.
in dem Satz inne,
In this
das noch kurz
sentence,
analysieren,
just to analyze quickly,
und wir bitten den Herrn, dass er uns unsere Schuld
we
vergibt.
are praying that the Lord forgives
Bitten
us
wir ihn
our
nicht, dass wir auch
sins,
anderen vergeben.
but with a
Wir und wir
consequence
vergeben auch
like
unseren
that
Schuldigen.
we forgave
Und da
our
möchte ich,
debtors. Like,
ja, gibt es nachher noch ein paar andere Verse dazu,
there's
aber
another
es
verse,
hat so eine
some other
Kraft,
verses to that,
wenn wir
but there's
für anderen
such a
vergeben.
strong meaning
Das
to the
Einfachste
thing that
ist,
when
wenn
we
wir kleine
forgive
Sachen
to other
anfangen.
people, and it's
Die grossen
easiest to
Sachen
start with
raus,
small
wenn wir
things and not
aus
the
dem
biggest,
Kleinen
and
rausgewachsen
the
sind.
big things, the
Wir haben oft Diskussionen gehabt in der
big
Ehe, ja,
forgiving
wo fängt's
should
an, Christ zu sein?
should then
Ist
just
es
come
schnell
out of the
angefangen? Ist es
easy
nicht
small ones.
einfach so
Where should we
Kleinigkeiten,
start
wo
with forgiving, or where should we
mega
be
überzeugt,
start
wenn
with
wir
being
bei kleinen
Christians? We
anfangen,
discussed
dann
that in
fällt
youth
es
group,
viel ringer
and we were just
Ganz
saying like
kleine.
if we start with small things like obeying the law about how fast am I driving, it's easier to continue than after this with bigger things and
Dann nachher
being
2 Verse
faithful in
später
that.
wird das Gebet noch schnell abgeschlossen.
2 verses later, the
Nachher
prayer
wird wie nochmal
is
Bezug
like
auf das
finished,
genommen.
and after this, it's talking about it again, verse 14. For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. So, like, the Father will forgive you when you forgive your friends or your people. God will forgive you. That's beautiful. But on the other hand, what it's saying in verse 15, like, that's the thing that drives me. Like, that's the interesting part about it. So, if David would not have forgiven to Saul, he would not have been just in front of the Lord. And that's with you as well. If you don't forgive, you will not be forgiven. It might sound super hard, but actually it's a help to go into the right direction, to be pushed into the right direction, to start forgiving. The Lord doesn't want you to forgive just because then He's gonna forgive you. He wants you to forgive, because after you forgive, your relationship in between people will be more beautiful, will be easier, and just more peaceful and full of freedom. That's something very important, and it's especially came important to me. A lot of you know the story with my dad. For those that don't know, my dad left our family with having a girlfriend. We fought a lot at home, and my parents divorced. A lot of damage happened in that space, and a lot of hurt. In the beginning, there was like a lot of hurt assembling, and a lot of pain was there, and hate actually. And I was a bit confused, because my parents told me everything about Jesus, and they also told me that marriage is one part of it, and when they broke it, like, everything became blurry, and I was like, Jesus, you sent my parents to teach me about you, and now they are doing the opposite. Like, can I still trust in that? Like, is it still true? And it took a while, with help of friends, and they encouraged me that it's not about, it's nice for a person if you forgive that person, but it's more beautiful for you, because you get free in it, and you become lighter again. You don't have this heavy burden on your shoulder again. You can start over. I really could do that step by step. I got there. And in that, I just want to go into some details quickly. There's different ways of, like, forgiving. To ask for forgiveness, like, ask if you hurt somebody, to stand up and be like, hey, can you forgive me? And I think it's a bigger step if you do that. It really takes some encouragement. You have to be quite bold to do that, and it can bring you so much freedom. Forgive if somebody asks you for it. It's like the opposite of that before. It doesn't have to be easy, but usually it's a bit easier, because sometimes you maybe just already forgive that person, and you think like it's cold coffee, but the other person didn't, and so that can be easier. And then there is another word between that, and it's like, if it's not just forgiving, but more than that, if you have peace in between people again. And I'm just explaining that quickly, like, it's a difference between forgiving and if both of the parties are forgiving. So it's like, if you forgive, doesn't mean that the other people or the other person forgave you. But if you, like, he can still hate you, even though if you forgave him, and to become together and have peace again together, that's the next step. Like, you can forgive, but that doesn't mean everything is good between you guys. And even though if you both forgive, it doesn't say that it's gonna be the same again as it was before. If you forgave, that just means you're in another place now, and you can start something new, but there has to be built trust again. So new trust must be built. There is a story together, and hurts, scars, and on these scars you want to build new trust. It won't be the same, and I just want to encourage you that you go step by step through this and build a new relationship. The same with my dad. I forgave him, and I told him it's okay if I go for a coffee with you, also and your wife now. But for me it's not okay to go into his flat, because just to go there, I know that it could hurt me a lot. And not because I didn't forgive him, or because I don't think it's okay to be with him, but I just know that if I go in there, in his flat, in his house, I just know it could hurt me, and I just want to take it step by step without falling back too much. So I'm taking that slow, and I'm not saying it can't be beautiful again. It won't be the same as it was, but it can actually be more beautiful than before. And if you start with forgiving, it can become a lifestyle, and it will become easier. And often we're so stubborn, and this person was so mean to me. He was always against me, and I can't forgive. But actually, if we start there, standing over it and get over it and start forgiving in small things, we can develop a lifestyle in that. And then it's a question of time and not a time of forgiving. But it's about am I ready already, or do I need more time? And I just want to encourage you to make it to a lifestyle, to a standard of your life that brings you ahead and into this freedom. We're back to the topic eye for eye, or tooth for tooth, and which was something for David. And Jesus is talking about it. You have heard that it is said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn them the other cheek also. Out of Matthew 5:38 to 39. It's very interesting. I don't think Jesus said that to encourage you, that if somebody is hitting you, you encourage him to hit him, let you hit again. But to be like, if the other person is angry and hits you, that you don't adopt this angriness. People are that way. If people are hurt, they're gonna hurt people. If people are having a bad childhood, then it takes so much of processing and changing that he doesn't become like the parents, because that's his normal, that's his standard. If you treat people bad, it's gonna be their standard. And we as Christians have a big bonus in there. We have Jesus. He died for us on the cross and took our shame and sins, and he rose again. He stands over that. And if somebody hits you, you can stand over that, and it doesn't make it okay, but you can let it go and stand over it. And that's what is important, and that's what Jesus wants to bring out in that. I'm really sure about that. To bring that a step further than this, I want to read out of Luke 6:27. But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you.
Und das ist wie nochmal ein ganz anderes
And that's a whole other level.
Es ist eins, zu vergeben, es ist eins,
it's something to forgive. It's one thing to come along with somebody again. It's one thing if you say, like, you hit me, it's not right, but it's okay, I'm gonna forgive you. But love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. That's something totally different. There the whole game changes. We take what they did to us, we change it to love and we shoot it back at them. And this has so much power. If you treat people with love, and just to go back with David and Saul, like an emotion is triggered in the other people. People don't get that because it's not logic for people. If they treat you bad, why would you react with love? People are overwhelmed by that, and it can be so healing and so lightening for the other person as well. And I think that's where we can start changing the world, changing our surrounding, changing our family. And sometimes you just want to throw another person at the wall, on the wall, and to send them over that, and that's just what is powerful. I know that because sometimes my brothers just really get on my nerve and I really just want to smack them down, but sometimes you just have to take a second and process it and then react, because I mean, we know. And it's very beautiful that we at home can really practice that and be like, I wanna work on that and just take that second and react how Jesus wants it. To the end, I just want to say something that is helping you, because often people are having a hard time forgiving because it's not alright with yourself yet. So I just want to go into that topic quickly. Jesus says, love God, your Father, from the bottom of your heart, with your soul and your spirit. Then love your neighbor as yourself. So in the order, it's like love God first, then love yourself, and out of that you can love your neighbor. So I just want to bring that into the forgiving. Start forgiving yourself, and out of that you can start forgiving other people. That's a freedom that comes in that. It goes over every coronavirus, and even if you're in quarantine, you can just have a peace in yourself, which is so much better than anything else, and any freedom the world can offer you. Start forgiving by forgiving yourself, and then you can forgive others. At that point, I want to play a song. It's also a new Kids Praise CD. It's not just a kids song, don't worry. Just take the time in that song to choose a person that you really know in your heart. I didn't really forgive that person yet. So I just want you to give that time to pray for that. And if you have something that you didn't forgive yourself yet, then just use that time for that. And let yourself get healed. It's the song The Blessing. So just take that time to bless this person with that song and to forgive or yourself. And if you don't find any person, then just take your time and do it on yourself. Do it over your family. Take that song and pray it over your family. It's so powerful.
leuchten, es soll dir gnädig sein, es soll sich freundlich zu dir wenden, sein Frieden mit dir. Amen, Amen, Amen,
Ja, Vater im Himmel, ich möchte dir danken, dass du der Gott von der Vergebung, von der Liebe bist und dass du uns die Kraft gibst, die wir brauchen, um Leute zu vergeben. Und ja, ich bitte dich einfach, dass wir das nicht rausschieben und irgendwie einen Plan von unserem nächsten Jahr machen, sondern dass wir damit heute anfangen können, dass wir dürfen in die Freiheit hineinkommen, die du für uns willst, von ganzem Herzen. Und dass du uns auch wirst vergeben, wie wir unseren Schuldigen vergeben. Und ja, das beinhaltet wirklich, dass wir vergeben. Und Jesus, das möchten wir machen. Und das können wir nur, weil du uns liebst, weil du uns von ganzem Herzen liebst. So wie wir sind, mit all unseren Fehlern. Und Ja, und dass wir die Bitterkeit, die wir von der Welt kriegen, nicht aufnehmen, sondern in Liebe verwandeln und zurückgeben. Ich danke dir einfach, dass wir die Kraft haben dürfen und dass du mit uns in die nächste Woche kommst und uns einfach bestärkst in dem hinein und uns segnest. Amen.